Hello friends, welcome to Nihira Techiees. In this video, I am going to explain React JS reductions using Redux and JSON Server REST API. And here I listed out all the steps. We can go one by one. So before that, let me provide one demo that will give some clear-cut idea about my video. And this is my user screen. So here I just populated the existing user information. And if you checked in this console, you can see the state information. So this is all about the Redux. So you will see little later. And next I'm going to create one new record. So initially I'm selecting the role is staff. So on submitted, see this user created successfully and the data also populated here. Okay. And next I'm going to edit this one. So instead of the staff, I'm going to provide admin. And in this email address, I'm adding this one. Okay. So once I'm submitted, see user updated successfully and our email and the role also changed. Okay, so finally I'm going to remove this one. So it is asking the confirmation, do you want to delete? Yes. Okay, so the message is saying removed successfully, and in this grid also it is affected. Okay, so this is all about our demo. Now let me start our implementation. So the first step is I'm going to create one brand new React.js application. So in this command prompt you have to choose the particular path. So here the Redux demo is the application name. So I'm going to provide Redux crud. Okay, great. Our application is created. So let me open in the VS Code. So this Redux crud. Okay, this is our brand new application. The next thing is I'm going to create the required files. Okay. First we can create the components. So let me create one folder first. So the first component is the home component. So it is just a JS file only. So using this stateless functional component, we can generate our components. Okay, home. And the similar way, we can create the components for our CRUD actions. So I'm going to take the sample of users. The first one is user listing. And the next one for add user. The same way we can create for the update. Okay, now we have created the components. And next I'm going to generate the files for the Redux. So we can create one more folder, Redux. So inside that, so our first file is action. And the next one is action type. And the third one is reducer. And the final one is store. So now we have created all the required files, and the next thing is we have to install the packages one by one. So let me go to the new terminal, and the first package I'm going to install the Bootstrap. So this is for the designing purpose. Okay, the Bootstrap installation completed, and once the installation completed, you have to refer the Bootstrap file in our index.js. Just import it. Node models, then Bootstrap, dist css. Finally, this bootstrap.min.css. So let me save this one. And the second package is React Router DOM. So that is for the routing purpose. So let me copy the command npm install React Router DOM. Okay. Okay, great. The installation is completed. Now let me initiate my routing in our app.js file. So here we have some default content. Okay. So let me remove everything. And here I'm going to use the browser router. So that will be available in this React Router DOM. So it will be imported top of that. So inside that we can define our routes. So in these routes, so let me define all the routes one by one. So it is having two properties. The first one is path. So the default one, and the next one is element. So in this element, basically we can choose our component. Okay. So the first one is I am choosing as the home component. And the similar way for the user, I am going to create user, and the component should be user listing. And the next route is for the add screen, add user, and the final one is for edit. So this is having one more parameter. So parameter is nothing but our key value. I am going to provide as code. Okay. So the component should be update user. Okay. So now we have done our routing. I mean initiated. Okay. And the next thing is I'm going to install this React notification. So that is for showing the traditional notifications. Once the installation is completed, we have to add one more reference. So the first one is the CS file only, react-toastify, and dist toastify.css. Okay. And the similar way, we have to include the toast container in our app.js. So after this browser router, we can include this toast container. Okay. Okay. So now we have installed this React notifications, and also we have done the required configurations. Okay. And the final one is React Redux. It contains lot of items. Okay. The Redux one of the package, then React Redux, redux-thunk, axios, redux-logger, and redux.js toolkit. We can copy and install everything in the single shot. And let me tell you some details about these packages. So Redux is this is the core library, and the second one is React Redux. So this is mainly for the React application. It is just acting like a bridge between React and Redux. And the next one is redux-thunk. So basically this is used for calling the API, and this axios also same. Okay, great. All the installation completed. So we can verify in our package. I mean this package.json. Okay. Okay, if we check the here, this toolkit was there: Axios, Bootstrap, React Redux, React Router DOM, Toastify, Redux, redux-logger, and redux-thunk also there. Okay. So now we are good to go. So let me check any packages is bending. So yeah, mostly we have done. And the final one is JSON-SERVER API. Okay. So the first thing is you have to execute these commands. So it will install the JSON server globally in our machine. So after that, we can run our API. So already I have installed in my machine. So I'm going to run this JSON server API. So let me open one new terminal. Okay. I'm going to execute this command. Okay. I'm planning to run my API in the port of 8000. So before that, let me create the folder. The folder name should be data. Okay. So now let me execute this command. See, so initially I don't have this db.json file, so it is created, and also we have some default methods. So now let me remove everything. We can have the user, okay, and ID is fine, and the next one is name, and the next one is role. So I'm going to provide two more properties, okay. One is email and another one is the phone number. See, we have the API URL. So this API only I'm going to use in our application. So let me show you. See, currently we have one record, so that's what it's showing like this, okay. So the same time we can run our application. Okay, see, our application is running. We got a text like React JS CRUD using Redux and JSON server, okay. So let me create the menu first. So in our app component, so inside this browser router, class name header, and in our app.cs, I'm going to include some static CSS. So here we can use the link option, okay. So that is provided by React Router DOM. So the first one is home, and the second link should be user. So in these two, we have to specify the redirection URL, okay. User. So now let me format this one. See, we have this home and user. So if I'm clicking this user, nothing will come because we not did anything. So here, so the design you have to make in your own way. I am using the Bootstrap, so I'm just following this Bootstrap classes. See the user listing. Okay, the text is coming from our component. And next, so let me define one table for displaying our user information. And here we can have this table header. So the first column should be code, and the second one should be name, then email, phone, and role. So the final one is for the action, okay. So in this T body, we can generate based on the API data. For the styling purpose, I can include one more class. And this is my listing screen. So now let me move on the Redux section. Okay. So already we have created 4 files. So we can start it from our action type. So constant. So next we have to provide the action type name. Okay. So in this real-time application, so basically we all know first we supposed to make the request. So based on the request, we make it the success response and also the failure response. So we can create our first action type is make request. Okay. And the second one is the success scenario. So we have around 5 success scenarios for the CRUD actions. So first let me declare the failure. Okay. We can consider get all users. For the success scenario, initially I am going to load the table, the list of customers. So I'm going to provide my action type is get user list. Okay. Okay, we have initiated our basic action type. Now let me go to the action. Now let me create the action creator. So the first one is make request. Okay. So this is kind of function. It will return the object. Okay. Make request. And let me export this one. And the similar way, I'm going to create 2 more action creators. Fail request. So it is having only error message. So in this payload, it's additional parameter. We can pass this error. Okay. And the type should be fail request. And the final one is get user list. So it is having the input is data. So this data is nothing but the list of users, so that we can pass in our payload. And the type should be get user list. So let me save this one. Now let me go to the reducer side. So reducer also a kind of function only. So it is having 2 inputs. The first one is the state and the next one is action. Okay. Okay, this is fine. And here we can use the switch statement. Okay. So in this switch, we can have this action dot type. So the default value should be a return state. So let me format it. And next, I'm going to declare the initial state value. So this is the object. So the first property is loading. Okay. The default value should be true. And the second one is user list. So the initial value should be empty array. So basically it stores the value of our user list. And the next one is user object it will store the individual user information. So initially I'm going to provide the empty object, and the final one is error message. So the default value should be empty. So in our reducer side, we can pass this initial value, and here we can mention the cases. So the first case is make request. Okay. So in this state, return state, and the loading should be true. And the second case is failure one, fail request. So in this scenario, we can return like same state, and this loading should be false, and this error message, okay, and the error message should be action.payload. And the next case for get all user list, get user list, and here it should be false, and the error message should be empty, and our user list, okay, so the user list should be the action.payload, okay. And finally, this user object, this should be an empty object. So now we can remove this one. So anyway, we have included all the items. So let me save this one, and next let me move on this store side, okay. So in this store, first we have to define our store, okay. So we can use like configure store. So this one is belongs to redux JS toolkit, and here we can pass the object. The first one is reducer. So for the reducer, we can use our reducer, okay, and then middleware. So in this middleware, basically accept the array. So here we can include this redux-thunk. I mean this thunk. Basically this thunk belongs to the redux-thunk, okay. And one more thing, it's a logger. So logger belongs to this redux-logger. So anyway, we have installed all the packages. So that's what it's coming like this. So now in our case, we have only one reducer. So it's maybe the future we may have n number of reducers also, okay. So for handling this n number of reducers, we have to use the one more class. It's called combine reducers. So let me import here combine reducers, constant root reducer equal to combine reducer. So this one. So let me copy this one, and we have to use this root reducer, okay. And we can create the object name user, that's it. And let me export this store also. And the final one is we have to use this store. For that we have the option is called provider. So in our app component is our base component, okay? So here we can use like provider. So it is belongs to the React Redux, okay? And finally, it is having the store option. So there I'm going to mention our store. So now we have done the configuration level. So let me save this one. So next in our action side, I'm going to create one dispatch method, okay? So this one also kind of function. Basically it will return the another function. Constant fetch user list. So return, and it is having the parameter of dispatch. So first I'm going to dispatch this make request. Okay, and next we can call our API. So for that I'm going to use this axios, and method is the get method. Next our URL. So then the response constant user list. So this response dot data. So whatever value is coming here, I'm going to dispatch one more action, get user list, and here we can pass this data user list. And if there is any error in the API call, here we can call, here we can dispatch another action, the failure. So this structure is common for all the requests. So it should be an error.message. Okay, let me save this one. And finally, in our component, our user list component, I'm going to create two functions. So the first one is map state to props. So it is having one parameter state. So here we can return like state.user. Why I am providing user means, so in our store we have registered our reducer in the object of user. So that's what I have used like this, okay? And the similar way we have to create one more function. So that is for the dispatch map dispatch to props. So here the input is dispatch. That's it. And it is the function. So load user and dispatch of. So here we can call the dispatch function that actually defined in our action. Okay. So the name is fetch user list. So we can save this one. And finally, so in our component, I'm going to use this connect option. So that is belongs to the React Redux. And here we can pass these two functions, map state to props and also map dispatch to props. And in our component, we can pass the props. And in our component side, I'm going to use this use effect hook. So this one also kind of function. It will be executed in the initial load. And we have to use the empty dependency, otherwise it will be executed for every seconds. So then prop start load user. So I hope you have done the basic changes. So we can verify whether it is working or not. So let me refresh it. So in the console, see. So initially the make request, okay, and there is no data. And in this get user list, so initial value should be empty array. After completing our request, we have one record in our array, okay. So let me expand this one. Here the same data available in our db.json, I mean in our JSON server, okay. So once I'm having this data, we can bind in our table. So before that, we have two more properties, right? This loading and error message. So let me do the changes here. Here first what I'm going to do, I'm checking this loading, okay. If it is loading, I can say one h2 tag and the text should be loading. Else we can check like, I believe the error message. Anyway, let me verify. Yeah, it is the error message. So if you have any error, we have to show the error message only. Using this binding option, I'm going to bind this complete error. That's it. We can finally we can have this section, okay. And let me save this one. So I'm going to refresh the screen. See, the loading text will come and it is going within the second, fraction of seconds. So if you want see the more times, this is for the just testing purpose. I'm going to include some timeout. So in this timeout, I can give 2000 is the value. So we can move this API call. So inside this timeout. See, so it is loading. So after some time only we can see our content, okay. So anyway, I'm going to comment this one because it's going to affect our performance. So next, let me bind this table body. So here, what I'm going to do, we can use this conditional variable and then props.user list. So if it is having the value, we can use this map option for generating the loop. And here we can have our tr tag. And in this key section, I'm going to include the ID. So after that, we can bind all the TD one by one. So the first column is ID. See the screen? Yeah, the one is binded. The similar way I'm going to bind all the columns, okay? So the second column is name, and the third one is email, and the fourth one is phone. So the next one is role, and the final one is the action. So here we can have two buttons. For the first one, I'm going to have one link tag. Okay, so this should be an edit, and the class name should be button primary. And the next one, I'm going to include this button tag. So this is for the remove. Button danger, and we have to include some space also. See, okay, one value is actually I missed. That's our ID. Okay, so this is all about our listing screen. So if I'm including some other data, so let me hard code in our db.json. See, so we have the three data. Okay, so in this edit button, I'm going to navigate in our edit screen. So we can use these two options. Okay, and here user slash edit, and finally we can pass our ID here. Save this one. And the similar way in our header side, I'm going to have one button. So instead of the button, let me use the link. That is more than fine. Add user, and the class. So in this two, user slash add. Okay, so let me save this one. Okay, the button actually in the center, so we can say text align should be right. Okay, so it is moved to the right corner. So when I'm clicking this add user, it is redirected into our add screen. And the similar way, if I'm clicking this edit, so it is redirected into our edit screen. Okay, so the functionality point of view, I'm going to implement this delete first. For implementing this one, in our button, I'm going to write one event on click, and here I have to pass the parameter. So handle delete. Okay, and let me pass this ID also, and we can define this function. That is the code. Here first I'm going to confirm. So if it is confirmed, we can proceed further. Okay, So in our component point of view, it is ready. So now let me make some changes in our Redux side. First, in our action type, so the action type is delete user. Okay, and in our action, so it is kind of make request only. There is not that much complicated. Okay, delete user, and the type should be delete user. That's it. And in our reducer point of view, okay, handle delete is not defined. Okay, actually it's not saved. That's what we are getting this exception. So next in our reducer also there is not that much changes. So in this case, delete user, right? So the same state, the loading should be false. So we can save this one. And finally, in our action, I'm going to create the dispatch function. So we can copy this one, remove user, and it is having one input code, and initially the make request is fine. And instead of this get, let me change this into delete, and here we can pass this code, and this section is not required. So instead of this get user list, so actually we can have this one also because it is needed. So before that, we can call this delete user list. Okay, here basically we are unable to dispatch this one. Anyway, let me remove this one, and that actually we can handle it from our component itself. Okay, so next in our component side, so already in this map dispatch to props we have used one function. So there I'm going to include this remove user also. Okay, so let me dispatch this one also. So remove user. So this remove user, I have to include it here. Okay. And it is having one input code. Okay. So let me copy this one. And finally, in our handle delete, props dot remove user, and let me pass this one. Okay. At the same time, once it's completed, I have to update our listing. So I'm just calling this one also. And for showing the notification, I'm going to use this toast alert. Success user removed successfully. So let me save this one. We can refresh the screen. So if I'm clicking this one, do you want remove? Once I'm clicked OK, see, so user removed successfully, and also our listing got updated. Okay, and this message, I mean this notification coming in the top of that. So I have to move this into bottom. So for that, I am going to make some changes in our toast container. So the toast container already we have used in our app.js. Okay. So here I just added this class, the toast position, and the position is bottom right. So we can try once again. So if I'm removing once again, see, user removed successfully. So I'm going to retry both the datas. You control reset, it will come. So if I'm refreshing, again we have these three records. Okay. So now let me focus on the add functionality. So because we have completed this get all users and also this delete function. So this is my add screen. So initially let me focus on the designing part. So once we completed this add user, the same thing we can use in our update user. Okay. So header, so next body, and finally it should be footer. So in this header, I'm going to have one h2 tag, add user. So in this bottom, we can have these buttons. And this type should be button. Okay. And the next one, we can have this link only. So I'm just redirecting to our listing. Okay. Button dancer. Okay, this is our screen. So let me change this alignment. So what I'm going to do, I'm just adding one style in this header and footer. Okay. So in this body section, I'm going to include all the controls one by one. So the first field is name because the ID is the auto-generated one. So that will be used in our editing time only. Okay. So in this add screen, the ID field is not required. So your first field is added. So still the alignment is the problem. So the design you have to take it in your own way. I'm not that much familiar. That's what I'm using this inline style. Okay. Now it should be fine. And the similar way, I'm going to include the other controls. The second one is email. And the third one is phone number. And the final one is role. For the role, we can use the select control. Okay. So I'm going to provide some static data only because of the time consumption. So, and the second option is staff. So let me format this one. Okay. So this is all about our add screen, and we can declare the use state variables. So the first one is name change, that is the event. Then this use state. So the initial value should be empty. Okay, the similar way I'm just adding three more state: email, email change, phone, phone change, and finally the role. So let me format it. Finally this. So in this user object we can include everything one by one. So this video I'm not focused on the validation related things also. So the main intention is we have to complete the CRUD actions using this Redux. Okay. So anyway, the validation related steps already I have covered in the some other videos. So currently we have these objects and the use state variables also. So let me bind these items. So the value is name, and in this onChange event, okay, this is fine. The same way I'm going to bind this onChange event and the value binding to other controls also. So email, email change, and next one is phone, and finally this role, phone, phone change, role, and role change. So the default value I'm going to provide staff, okay, for the role. So we can save this one, and for these controls I'm going to include the form option. Okay, so in this form we can use the submit option. On submit event, handle submit. So let me define this function. So here we have to prevent the default event, prevent. So let me format this one, and in this console.log I'm going to check this one. Use this object inside of our function. So we can refresh this one. So let me verify. Yeah. So in this button, the type I added is the button. Okay. So let me change this into submit. So let me refresh it. See. So the value is coming. So if I'm giving test, okay, whatever value I'm giving, so I'm able to get it from our console. Okay. So next we can dispatch our add action method. So before that, let me complete the changes from our Redux side. Okay. So in our action type, we can add like add user. Okay, so same time in our action it is similar to our delete user, add user, the type should be add user. So next in our reducer side, this is also nothing, add user. And finally in our action.js we can create the dispatch function. So let me copy this one, function add user. So the input value is data, it's a kind of object. Okay, and make request is fine. So the request type should be post and our URL should be like this, and here we can pass this data. Okay, and instead of this delete user we can call this add user. Okay, mostly we have done. So let me save this one. Finally we can dispatch in our add user page. Okay, so here instead of the connect option I am going to use the use dispatch, so that also a separate class. Okay, constant dispatch, use dispatch. So let me dispatch to here, and our dispatch function is function add user, and the data is nothing but our object. Okay, so once it is succeeded we have to show the messages. Okay, it is saved successfully. For showing the message, that also we can handle it from our action.js. So here toast success, user added successfully. Okay, and in our add user, so once the save is completed and we have to redirect it into our listing page. So for that we can use this history option, I mean this navigate, use navigate hook we can use navigate. So inside that we can specify our route path value. Okay, that is the user. So let me refresh the screen once again. Akilash ak@in.com, phone number some value, the role is yeah staff, that is fine. So once I'm submitted, see user added successfully, so we can see the new record also. Okay, and let me check my db.json. Yeah, the new record is included. Okay, so next we can focus on this edit functionality. For the edit functionality, most of the codes we can copy from our add user. So here let me copy everything, and let me include it here. Okay, so let me save this one, so it will show some error, we can resolve one by one. So the first one is use state, it is imported, and next one is use dispatch, that also imported, and then use navigate, that also done. And here we can have this ID also. ID. So the ID not going to change anyway, I just included. So this is the numeric value. It should be ID. Let me see if there is any error. Yeah, link and function add user. Link. Okay, so first we can complete from our Redux side. So in our action type, the similar way, instead of this add user, I'm going to use like update user, okay? And let me include one more type. That is for getting the individual user information, get user object. So now see, we have the two action types. And in our reducer side, first we can use this update user, that is nothing. And next, for the get user object, the state is fine and loading false. Finally, the user object, okay? For this user object, we have to set the values from our payload. Because we are getting the individual user information, okay? And in our action side, so the first one is very simple. So instead of the add user, I am just changing this into update user, and the type also it is the update user. And the second one is instead of this get user list, we can give object, and the type also should be object, okay? So other things are fine only. Now we have to define two dispatch function. So first we can complete for the update, okay? So in this update function having one more parameter, that is the code. So in this URL, I am just changing this into, okay, and the request type should be put. So in this dispatch, we can say update user updated successfully, and other things are fine only, okay? And in our component side, so instead of function add user, we can call this update user, and again we are redirecting to our listing, that also fine. So in this control point of view, so let me include the one more control. So this is the ID change event is not required, and this field should be disabled. So let me save this one. And the next thing is we have to get this code value in our component. At the same time, I have to complete the dispatch method for get user by ID or else get user object, okay? For the example, we can take this one. Okay, fetch user object, and it is having the input is code, and it is the get method, that also fine, and other things are same. So instead of the get user list, just to change into get user object. Oh, it should be get. Okay, this is fine. Now let me go to the component side. So in this component, let me use the use f8 hook. So in this zero dependency, and here we can dispatch this function fetch user object. Okay, here I have to pass one value, so that is our code. For getting this value, we can use params hook. The code equal to use params hook. Here I mentioned as the code. Why? Because while defining my route, I have added as the code. So the same value should be used here. Okay. So I'm just passing it here, and let me format it. We can check in this console. See, it is triggered get user object only. So okay, here we are getting this information, right? So next what I'm going to do, let me access the state value. So here we not use this connect option, so directly went with this use dispatch. The same way we have one more option is called use state option, and the same way we have one more option use selector. So using that we can access our state. So constant user object equal to use selector, and here state dot user and our object. So the object we can get it from our initial assignment. Yeah, it is the user object. That's it. So next what I'm going to do, let me use one more use effect. Okay, so in this dependency I am going to include this user object. Okay, and here we can check the same user object. If it is not equal to null or empty, I can set the values one by one. This user object dot id. See, the one is coming. So in case if I'm providing true, see the 2 is coming. So let me assign all the fields one by one. Okay, so the next one is name change. At the same time it should be name. So we have 3 more fields, 2 3. Email change, phone number change, and the role change. Okay, the values also like this: email, phone, and role. See, all the values are get binded here. So here I am getting one exception. A component is changing a controlled input to be uncontrolled. Okay. So for resolving this issue in this binding session, we have to put like this. So now we are almost in the end of the video. So we can refresh the screen once again. Yeah, the issue got resolved. Now let me go to the listing once again and trying to edit the third one. See, the data is loaded fine. And if I'm trying to click the submit, okay, nothing will happen. So let me check this one for the update scenario, whether I completed all the codes perfectly. First, we can verify it is from our dispatch method. Okay, the problem is here I'm not passed the additional parameter. Now I understood. So in our update user, I have to pass this ID also. So let me save this one. I'm going to edit the third one. So instead of admin user 2, I'm going to provide the name as Ramesh and the ID also like re.admin. We can save this one. See, it is updated fine. And the second one, so instead of the admin user, I can give Suresh. So ID is SR. The role also it is staff. See, it is updated successfully. Still, the notification is not coming properly, I believe. Okay. So that also we can verify in our action. We have added this notification, right? I believe the add time also it's not coming. Okay. Test. Okay. The add time it is coming. User added successfully. But in this update time, this update user I believe have some issue. Okay. So that is the problem here. Okay. So this is our actually action method. Now if I'm trying to edit this one, so instead of this phone number, I have to provide some phone number. See, user updated successfully. So now we have completed all the functionalities. Finally, I'm going to give one more demo. Nihira Techiees. Nihira Techiees at gmail.com. And phone number admin. So user added successfully. Now let me change this into staff. See, user updated successfully. And finally, do you want to remove? Yes, removed successfully. Okay. So now we are in the end of the video. Still, if you have any doubts or clarification, please post in the comment box. And also please don't forget to subscribe my channel for support. Possibly try to join our membership also. Thank you. Thanks for watching.